I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
There are many myths surrounding tax cuts. The biggest myth is that we are being taxed to death, that taxes have increased so much over the years that average Americans are suffering. I'm sympathetic to this argument, but it's just not true. In fact, very little has changed over the last 50 years. Because the value of money changes over time, we have to compare the federal budget receipts to the GDP. Since 1952, government spending fluctuates around 18% of the GDP and has moved up and down only a percent or two. So, in real terms, there's been very little change. What about the effects of tax cuts on average Americans? There are none. At least they're not really worth talking about. For instance, the Bush tax cuts only saw middle-income earners gain about $740 from 2001 to 2007. That's around $100 a year. That means you could have made an extra trip to the store. Yay. What is all the money being spent on? About 30% is spent on defense, 21% on Social Security, 23% on Medicare and Medicaid, 8% on interest. So right away, about 82% of the budget is gone. That leaves about 18%. The rest of the money goes to veterans benefits, agriculture, science and technology, transportation, education, and general government services. Essentially, if you don't want to cut the military budget, Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid, then basically, you do not want to cut taxes. The other programs I listed are so minor that they wouldn't make any difference if you cut them. In fact, some of those programs could have beneficial effects in the future. For instance, spending in science and technology, which only consists of 0.8% of the budget, could make new discoveries that would eventually be used in the private sector. Some of the most important innovations have been developed by the government, including the internet. In aerospace, breakthrough in satellites and aviation have come directly from government spending. The most important technologies in the last 50 years have been a byproduct of the government. The media has done a terrible job at explaining to the public how the budget works and what money is being spent on. The latest fad has been pork barrel spending, which only accounts for a little more than 1% of the budget. Even if every pork barrel project was scrapped, it wouldn't make a difference. But the media love to play with the numbers. They sensationalize how $1 million is being spent here, or $1 billion spent there. But $15 million is a tiny fraction of the budget. A great example is the bridge to nowhere. I agree with everyone that this project didn't make any sense, and it was going to cost taxpayers $320 million. Now that sounds like a lot of money, right? $320 million is about 0.01% of the budget. Imagine that. Think of all the controversy and airtime over something so petty. Imagine seeing another country getting so upset about 0.01% of their budget. We would think they were totally insane. I'm not saying that we shouldn't improve the US budget. I'm just sick and tired of hearing people whine about how the government is taking all their money and at the same time sending their kids to public schools while driving them on public roads with the support or military bumper sticker on their car and then collecting Social Security checks while using Medicare when they get sick. It's really annoying. Today, we are in the age of privatizing the government. We are in the process of privatizing our schools and even the military, not to mention talk of Social Security. But it's not really privatizing anything. The government is still spending the money. All they are doing is using taxpayer dollars to have someone else do the job for them. But it's expensive. Military contractors don't get paid $20,000 a year like regular soldiers. They get paid $200,000. How rational is that? It used to be that soldiers pilled potatoes with very little cost. Now we pay companies like KBR who charge the government $20 a plate for food. The problem with privatizing is that there are huge overhead costs. CEOs need to own mansions and fly on private jets. They need to eat at the finest restaurants while working 20 hours a week. Government employees, even at the top, are paid very little. If you've been watching my videos, you probably come under the impression that I think that the private sector is evil, while the government is somehow wholesome and without blame. That's not what I'm saying. This is just the starting point. Later, I'll be discussing why the federal government should run very little, or nothing if possible. But we can't make decisions about public spending if we know nothing about it. We need a new way of understanding where our money goes without all the sensationalism that the media spins. The next video, I'll be talking about how the rich and powerful have used the free market ideology to convince the public that markets know best.